Hey friends and book lovers, welcome back. I am doing my top reads of 2022. These are the top 12 books that I'm planning on reading and that I really want to prioritize for the year of 2022. Last year I made a list of about 11 books and I did pretty good. I did about like half of them I was able to read, and the other half, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to them. A few of those are on this year's list, and some of those I've just decided that I'm not as interested in prioritizing. I think as time goes on, sometimes these lists can change. So when I put together this list, I just thought of books that I know I want to read and that have been on my mind or on my radar for a few years now that I just really want to get to. And so hopefully this list can remain a little more timeless than my list in 2021. The reason I have 12 books and not 22 is because I think that 22 is a really high number and that I might change my mind about all of those books if I put so many on that list. So what I've done is I've done 12 like standalone books that I'm going to read this year, and then I'm going to 10 series that I'm going to read this year, which equals 22, very similar to what I did last year with 21. So that way I still have the 22, but it's broken up into 12 and 10, and I might add a little bonus here and there. So at the end of this video, you might see a bonus read that I'm going to be adding to this list. And if you want to see that, please stay tuned. In no particular order, I am going to start. The first on this list is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. This is a standalone novel and it features like a powerful mother figure who's also a warrior and a total badass. I have just heard so many good things about this novel on BookTube. Just in general, I think a lot of people read it last year and I wanted to read it with them. I wanted to buddy read it with everyone, but I just wasn't able to. I have really high hopes for this one, but I think the reason I put it off is because of all the emotional turmoil. I am a little afraid of emotional turmoil. I'm not too, proud to admit it, and I just feel like a book that might give me emotional turmoil might be put off because I just don't know that I'm ready for it. However, I need to read this because I've just heard so many good things from everyone here on BookTube. I don't think I've heard one bad review. Everything that I've seen is like 4 or 5 stars. And from what I understand, it's just a really worth it type of read. Again, epic fantasy, Asian setting, like a mother warrior figure, and you don't tend to see a lot of older female figures in fantasy. So this is kind of a really good book to read, and hopefully we'll see more of that come out in the future. The next book is actually a debut fantasy novel that I have talked about in my current reads video, and I am really excited to finally be getting to it. It's also an ARC that I got in NetGalley, and then I got a finished Goldsboro copy, so you might know which one I'm talking about, but that would be Among Thieves by Jade. This is again her debut novel. It is an adult fantasy novel, and it's not super long from what I understand. I think it's about 400 pages, 340 pages, and I'm excited to read this. I know that this is about a female assassin. I go into the synopsis in my other video, so I'm not going to go too far into it. And like I've said, this one is about a female assassin, which just guarantees a lot of awesome badassery. She has one last job before she is free, and she has to team up with this League of Thieves and go on this heist. And of course, these thieves are not honest people. They have plans of their own, secret plans, and everything goes down in this book. I am excited to read this. I'm excited for like a shorter and sweeter adult story. You don't see that often. And I'm excited to dive into another debut book. I'm hoping that this author is going to captivate me, and then I can just be on the lookout for any other work that she does release. If you've seen my reading goals, and I will link that video up above and in the description down below, I did discuss putting in nonfiction books this year. I gave myself, I think, a target of 7 nonfiction books in total, whatever they may be, but at least to read 7 of them. So I'd added 2 nonfiction books to this list because I really think that these ones are the ones that I will prioritize and that I might get a lot out of. I've also had friends from all walks of life read this particular book and tell me that it's amazing and really worth it, and that is Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is a book that basically explains why creating these small daily little habits can amount to a really big goal being accomplished. It shows you research and good plans planning, and it shows you systems versus just daily goals. So that's something that I understand a little bit on the surface, but that I would love to understand further within this novel. So I'm definitely very excited to read this. And again, I've heard just really good things. Everyone that's read it has just said it's amazing. It's a really great nonfiction book. So I got my hands on it and I thought, why not do that for 2022? Because I have a lot going on. So I'm gonna have to set up a lot of great systems in order to keep everything on track. This next one might be a little familiar because I did want to read this last year, but I ended up putting it down because the story was so heartbreaking and it was really dark and intense, so I didn't get to read this, but I am planning on reading it this year. And even if I read it slowly over the course of a few months, because it is a very intense story, I still think that it's really worth it for me to read, and that would be Beloved by Toni Morrison. I have her The Bluest Eye book, and that I really want to get to that one, but I really want to get to Beloved before The Bluest Eye because I think that Beloved was published earlier and I just want to get to her earlier work before her later work. However, when I read the first 2 chapters of this, it was very hard hitting and that can be a little tough for me to read. So I think I'm going to try to space this out with like a chapter a day or maybe a chapter every few days, just to kind of let it sink in and not do too much overwhelming emotions for me, because the first chapter I was like, oh my gosh, this is just gonna be tough. I do think it's worth it. I do think this is one of those classics that I have to read, and so I am putting it on this list so that I can be accountable for getting it done this year. Okay, the next one on this list is one that's gotten a lot of acclaim. I wanted to read it last year in the fall because it is kind of that dark academia type of novel, and that is The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. This has gotten a lot of recognition. It was self-published and I think it was picked up by Tor, so they are coming out with a whole new awesome cover for it, which I do actually really want that cover as well, but I'm gonna keep the old indie published one because nostalgia, and this cover is still super beautiful and super detailed, but the Tor cover is even more eye-catching. So this book is dark academia. It's a book about these students that get picked by the mysterious Atlas Blakely for admittance into the Alexandrian Society, but only a certain handful of them will actually make it. So he puts them to the test by having them compete. And that's kind of what I know about the story and where our story begins. I don't want to know too much about this because I think that in dark academia it's almost better to know less, because it will take me on a journey that I probably didn't expect. So I'm not really looking to know more and have too many expectations set before I read it. However, I do have high hopes for this, and I really do hope that I love it because I love a good dark academia novel. This is one that I got in an Limit Crate box, and it's probably one of the most stunning books that I own. And it is also one that I was really looking forward to getting last year, and that would be Jade, Fire, Gold by June C.L. Tan. I don't know if this is her debut novel or if she has other novels, but this is a novel, a fantasy novel set in kind of an Asian setting with 2 main characters, one that is trying to regain the throne and one that is trying to figure out their path and their past. They end up meeting up in this story and being able to help each other out in order to do those 2 things for each other. And that's kind of where the synopsis stops. There's nothing really else that we are told, but even still, I've just heard really awesome things, and the fan art and the cover art for this book in general in the US and the UK is just really stunning and makes me think that I'm set up for like epic battles and really awesome magic and like crazy scenes. So I'm excited for this one. I do think that this one's YA. I don't think that it is adult. So I'm not sure if this one's adult or YA, but this is at least her debut novel. So I'm excited again to get into another debut novel. And this one has had a lot of acclaim around it, so I do have high hopes for it. I'm not really sure what I'm in for, but I think that I'm going to be intrigued by it nonetheless. And I believe that this is told from obviously 2 different perspectives, since we do have those 2 main characters, so you get a chapter from each character, I think, interspersed in the book itself. So I'm excited. And this next one is my second nonfiction that I've put on this list. This one I've actually pre-ordered, and I've been following this author on his podcast and his videos that he's been making, and just his life story has always really intrigued me, and that would be Think Like a Monk by Jade. He is someone who did live a monk lifestyle for a little while and then came back and put his practices to use by making them more popular on social media. And I'm really intrigued to see kind of how the monks live and more detail around that lifestyle and what he took away from that lifestyle as being really useful in this world as well. So I know that it goes kind of deeper into those rules and theories and lifestyle, and I'm very intrigued by all of this. I'm intrigued by his life story, because who becomes a monk and then comes back into the real world, like that just is so crazy, but it's so wondrous and like cool at the same time. So this is one that I am really excited to read. I don't think it's just an autobiography. I think he's going to have bits of his life in there, but I really think it's going to be teaching us a lot of the concepts around monks and the way that they live their lives. So I am very intrigued and excited to dive deeper into this one. This one might come as no surprise because I've definitely talked about reading this and wanting to read this before another one that's also on this list, because I just want to get this on my read list and kind of under my belt. And I'm also curious to see if I'm gonna like it or if I'm just gonna feel kind of meh about it. And that would be Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. Now, this is one of his more earlier works. This is a standalone in the Cosmere, but I know that it ties into some other of the Cosmere stories, so it is important to read. Some folks really love this, and I know that some of y'all really didn't vibe with it and thought it was just like and kind of tough to get through. I don't know which camp I'm gonna fall into. I really don't know, because I do like Brandon Sanderson's very straightforward writing, but I don't know if this is the book for me. I'm not going to go into the synopsis because, again, everyone knows about this, but this is definitely one that I'm putting and that I want to get done towards the beginning of the year so that I can get to the rest of the books that will follow Elantris in the Cosmere universe. All right, and this next one, I actually ended up pre-ordering this, and it's a special edition signed or whatnot, but I never read it, even though I had it on a couple TBRs last year, and that would be The Bone Ashard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. This is, I think, her debut novel as well, and it's actually tagged by Sarah J Maas, which is kind of cool because it's not a fantasy romance novel. It is actually what I believe a epic fantasy novel, and it's going to be a series, and this one is based on some really cool magic, some bone shard magic. I don't know much more about the story than that. I know that I read the synopsis way back when it came out and it really intrigued me, but I don't want to know much more because I've heard that the magic itself is just really amazing, and I feel like that's just gonna pull me in totality. I love magic systems. I love when they work really well with the story. I love when they're fleshed out just enough to help you understand, and I think I'm gonna have that experience with this one. I do have some pretty high expectations from this one, but I'm really excited to give this one a shot and see how I feel about it. And again, if y'all have read any of these books, please let me know in the comments down below. I love hearing your thoughts, or if you have planned on reading any of these, again, let me know in the comments down below. All right, this next one follows Elantris, so you know it's gonna be another Brandon Sanderson, and I am finally reading Way of the Kings this year. I will try to read the rest of the Stormlight Archives this year, but they're huge chunkers. Like, I mean, this is pretty much 2 books, so it should really count for 2 slots on my 12 out of 12 list, but we're only counting it for 1. I am very excited to read this. I feel like I'm gonna read Stormlight Archives and just become a mega fan. I love crazy, complex stories that I can just lose myself in, and I feel like this is gonna be one where I'm like, this world feels too real to not be real, and I'm excited. I don't even think that I can summarize this. I don't even want to read the synopsis because I know that it's really complex, and I've also heard that when you reread this, you just find more and more things and eggs, Easter eggs that connect you to other worlds and stories in the Cosmere that he's written. So I'm really excited. I know that the first 4 that have been released, I'm pretty sure, are the first arc in the Stormlight Archives series. I'm not exactly quite sure how many books there are, but that's a very easy question to ask the internet if anyone's interested. I will probably ask the internet after this video because I'm also very curious now that I've said that out loud, but I am definitely gonna be starting on the Way of Kings. I'll probably do a vlog for this. I wanted to read this last year and do a vlog for it, but I didn't get around to that. So this year I kind of want to read this and do like a spoilery vlog, and I put my thoughts out there as I read it, and since I think everyone else has read it, it's not going to be too much of a spoiler for the BookTube universe. And for number 12 on my list, and let me repeat that this list is in no particular order, so this one is not a lower priority, it is just on the list, would be Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. I haven't heard a ton about this book on BookTube. I don't know if it's because of the people that I'm following or if it's not as popular, but I really want to read Django Wexler's works because I've seen he has actually a good amount of books out there, but I haven't ever tried any of them, and Ashes of the Sun will definitely be my first by him. He has the second one of this series out, Blood of the Chosen, but I don't have that one yet. I think if I love this one, I'll probably grab a copy of that one. So I'll read the synopsis for this one quickly. Long ago, a magical war destroyed the Chosen Empire, and a new republic rose from its ashes, but old grudges still simmer. Geyer hasn't seen his beloved sister since their parents sold her to the mysterious Twilight Order. Now, 12 years after her disappearance, Geyer's sole focus is revenge, and he's willing to risk anything and anyone to claim enough power to destroy the Order. Chasing rumors of a fabled city protecting a powerful artifact, Geyer comes face to face with his lost sister, but she isn't who she once was. Trained to be a warrior, Maya wields magic for the Twilight Order's cause. Standing on opposite sides of a looming civil war, the two siblings will learn that not even the ties of blood will keep them from splitting the world in two. This sounds amazing, and obviously, like, I feel like I'm gonna love it because I love that kind of like sibling rivalry, and I just love the family you choose versus family you're born into type of narrative story. So I think this one's gonna be right up my alley. And of course, what would a list video on my channel be without a bonus book, which will be Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This one has been out for a really long time and I feel like a lot of folks have read it. It's one of those short and sweet standalones. I think it's less than 400 pages and it is kind of like a retelling of a fairy tale set in 1920s Mexico from what I understand. I don't know a ton about it, but I kind of want to go into it blind. I've heard really good things. This is one of those literature fantasy fiction books, so I think it's gonna be really beautiful and very complex while giving me a lot to think about. So those are the 12 plus 1, as always, books that I'm planning on reading in the year of 22 and definitely prioritizing. If any of these books are on your list or if you've read any of them, please leave a comment down below. I always love hearing your thoughts. And if you like this video, please click that like button. That always helps support my channel. And if you want to see more content from me, please don't hesitate to subscribe